Welcome, Sens Talk. Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon Plant, and I am your host. Now, right off the bat, I want to apologize for the lack of video quality in this one compared to my normal setup. I don't got my studio lights. I'm at my girlfriend's right now. I do got my camera. I got the microphone, so, I'm trying the best I can, but I do apologize if this doesn't turn out as clear as usual. But again, the show must go on, and my goodness, was there ever a show tonight. And, everyone that clicked this video, Sens fan, Hap fan, hockey fan, you clicked this video not for the box score, but for what happened on the ice, all right? And I know that sounds like kind of redundant, the box score is what happened on the ice, but no, we're not talking about that in this one. So quickly, let me just say this. Sens lost to the Montreal Canadiens 5-0 tonight. We'll talk about it in the game notes, but the Habs were all over Ottawa in this one and absolutely dominated and deserved the win. Ottawa, from beginning to end, was not even close to winning this game. Now that I have that out of the way, let me talk about whether the Quebec City trip for the Ottawa Senators was a success or not, and then we're going to get into what you really want to hear about, which is the Zeller version of the Xhekaj brothers, that being the Xhekaj brothers. But before we get into that, let me talk about Quebec City and whether this was a success or a failure for the Ottawa Senators. Now, I think anyone that's saying it was a success doesn't know what they're talking about, and anyone saying it was a failure also doesn't know what they're talking about. You can't prove either. I think ultimately what happened here is the Ottawa Senators tried something out, and you can't fault them for trying. Now, I do understand why Sens fans have reservations against, going to Quebec City to begin with. We've heard in the past about potential relocation rumors to Quebec City. Now, that was with Melnyk. That's not going to happen. Definitely no chance that happens. But that leaves a sour taste in the mouth of Sens fans. On top of that, you had the Spartacat jersey cut in half with the Nordiques and Sens jersey. That is sacrilege. You cannot do that. And understandably, myself and many other Sens fans lost it when they saw that. But also when this was announced, 4 or 5 months back, they said that, that being Michael Andlauer, said that the Sens could even potentially play regular season games in Quebec City. Now, that definitely should not happen. I'm fully against that. But I'm not against trying a couple games in Quebec City and seeing how it goes. And that's exactly what the Sens did with this trip. And I think in that, aspect, it was a thumbs up. No issue with trying at the very least. They have the broadcasting rights in Quebec City on RDS and TSN, and it doesn't hurt to try to expand your fan base, in the Quebec market, specifically in a market like Quebec City, sure, a few hours away, but in a market where you own the TV rights. So I understand why they did it. I get the intention behind it, but let's not make this a regular thing. If it's just a couple games in 2025 in the preseason, no problem. If we start talking about regular season games, hard no. If we start talking about preseason games every year, frankly, I don't know how I feel about that. Again, for a couple games to try it out, I'm fine with it, but, tonight we heard boos from Hab fans, in the stadium. Obviously, you could have a lot of Hab fans in Quebec City, but still, not the greatest thing. And overall, again, you got Gatineau right here. If you want to do a preseason game outside Ottawa, just go to Gatineau. That makes a lot more sense. It's across the river. That market is, in my opinion, part of the Sens fan base, literally geographically anyways, so that makes more sense. So I think the next push, if you want to expand to the Quebec market, go to Gatineau. It's across the river. It's right there. That makes more sense. But again, I don't fault the Senators for trying in Quebec City, although I do understand why a lot of Sens fans are not really thrilled about it. You lost a home game or two in the preseason. It was impossible to watch basically at least 1 out of 2, if not both, of these games due to regional blackouts and whatnot. So it was a bit of a fiasco, so to speak, and just like tonight's game. And before we get into that, I just want to say thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk, as Sens Talk is proudly presented by Dylan Puckniak, Ottawa's exclusive realtor with Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment. Providing a bilingual real estate service that serves the Ottawa-Gatineau community, Dylan Puckniak has also specialized in supporting professional athletes that come and go in our city, providing a service that takes care of the people at the highest level. For realtor experience puts you and your needs first. Visit DylanPuckniak.kw.com. That is DylanPuckniak.kw.com to find out more today. Again, thank you to Dylan Puckniak and Keller Williams Sports and Entertainment for sponsoring Sens Talk. So let's jump right into it. To the first period we go. The Habs are up 1-0. Now, normally for a regular season game, I would talk about each goal even if we lost 10-0. But it's the preseason, so I'm not really going to bother. Again, there's a lot of rust involved with a lot of these players in the preseason, trying to get into rhythm. Let's not overread the plays themselves. But after the Habs took the 1-0 lead with about 5 minutes left in the first period of play. This is when the fisticuffs truly begin, as Florian Xhekaj, the brother of Arber Xhekaj, who we will be talking about for sure in this one, ladies and gentlemen, goes at it with Jan Jeník. And respect to Jan Jeník for going in there and fighting, Xhekaj, but Florian Xhekaj can throw them, man. My goodness. He absolutely laid out Jeník and fed him some punches. Kudos again to Jeník for stepping in there, but yeah, no, Florian Xhekaj is certainly the better of the two when it comes to fighting. And we'll talk about this in the game notes, but this kind of just shows desperately why the Sens need some toughness if your name's not Brady Tkachuk. They don't got that. Tonight showed why. We'll save that for later, though. So we go to the second period of play, and after the Canadiens make it 3-0, all hell breaks loose. Holy moly. With about a few minutes left in the second period of play, it's the other Xhekaj, Arber, going at it with Zach McEwen. Now, a couple minutes before this happened, I got to give some context. I already hear the Hab fans in my comments. What about Hodgson? What about Hodgson? Don't worry, I'm a Sens fan, no doubt, but I'm not going to just negate what happened before. Hodgson had a board and then fought somebody with their gloves on. Not a great play overall. That clearly pissed off the Habs, because a couple minutes later, oh boy, we had Bedlam in Quebec City. My goodness, this was... oh my god, this was insanity. You had Struble and Jeník going at it with one another because Struble cross-checked Jeník in the face. Poor Jeník. You saw the thumbnail of this video. This guy was just getting absolutely pummeled all night. But you know what? That's some Sens sicko energy. He still pulled off a smile with a face full of blood. I love to see that from Jeník. What a dog! But speaking of dogs, rats, Xhekaj and McEwen go at it, and I'm not going to lie. Xhekaj, great fighter. This guy can absolutely throw the punches. He's in the wrong sport. Should probably go to the UFC with how good he can throw the punches. No doubt about that. No one's disputing that. What people are going to say, though, when it comes to Arber Xhekaj, and you can say this about Hodgson, I guess. Not the greatest play. You can say this about Nick Cousins in the third with the chop to Demidov on his wrist. That's also classless in a rat play. Just like this Xhekaj throw down on McEwen, where after he throws him down, he still feeds him a couple of punches. That's a rat play. You cannot do that. You should not do that, especially in a meaningless game. You cannot do that. So, I put out a tweet. Hab fans are having a field day with it. Good. Thanks for the engagement, ladies and gentlemen. But again, what I will say is, in a meaningless game, when a man is down, you don't punch him. I'm sorry. You don't. And if that pisses you off, you need to do some soul searching and think about why that pisses you off. Maybe put your bias aside and think about the fact that, yeah, that's just a stupid classless play by a classless player. So maybe we shouldn't be shocked, but ultimately a classless play by a classless player. If I can admit that Hodgson wasn't exactly great a few minutes before all this went down, and Cousins in the third specifically was horrible, then Hab fans absolutely should be able to admit that what Xhekaj did here, on McEwen, throwing some punches at him, same with Jeník with Struble, classless, you can't do it, and you should call out your team for doing it as well. But you won't. You won't, because this is your Stanley Cup. And I get it. We beat you in the regular season. You can have the fun in the preseason. So we go to the third period, and of course it's Lane Hutson making it 4-0. And then after this, the skirmishes start again. Xhekaj and McEwen go at it once again, and they're ejected. I mean, kudos to these teams. They know how to put on a show, no matter if it's the preseason, the rookie tournament, the regular season, and maybe the playoffs this year. We'll see. They know how to put on a show. They do not like each other. And then after this skirmish, I already mentioned it, I'll say it again, Nick Cousins, you can see it on your screen here, with a slash on Demidov. You just can't do that. Classless, stupid play by Nick Cousins, who frankly hasn't had a great, camp and preseason. He's been very undisciplined. He hasn't been noticeable unless it's been for awful reasons. And for a guy that's a veteran, you shouldn't be parading to the box every single shift basically you're out there, right? So I like Nick Cousins. I think we need more of that, peskiness, especially on your fourth line. That's what you want, but it has to be effective peskiness, if that makes sense. And when you're just going to the box, giving the Habs a bunch of power plays, there's nothing effective about that, right? So that wasn't great. Now look, don't get me wrong. This is hockey. It's going to get feisty. It's going to get chippy. It's going to get dirty, but doesn't mean we have to like it. You know what I mean? Does not mean we have to like it. I will mention this, by the way, with about 10 minutes left. Kirby Dach, beautiful deflection goal. Just have to give him a little bit of kudos for that. That was a sick goal. But yeah, Ottawa loses 5-0 to the Montreal Canadiens in a game that felt more like a UFC match and not an NHL match. My goodness, that was absolutely insane for a preseason game. And some game notes. So, I'll talk about this specifically quickly. The Sens have 8 goals in 12 preseason periods so far. Is it time to panic about the lack of scoring? Now, I will say this too. The Sens today had 2 breakaways, had 0 shots on both breakaways. 2 breakaways, 0 shots. We're not even talking about goals. Just putting the puck on net. They couldn't do that. So when you're having struggles of putting the puck on net on a breakaway, preseason or not, I'm a little concerned. I can't lie with you. Now again, the preseason is to get into a rhythm, to shake off the rust, and to get things going. So if this continues into the regular season, I'll genuinely be nervous. Right now, it's the preseason. Let's see how things continue to shake up as the guys get kind of more into a rhythm with one another. But again, the effort we saw tonight was lackluster and uninspired at the best. And, there's a lot of puck watching. They had 16 total shots on goal, 8 penalty kills they had to kill off. Multiple went in, obviously. So, you have the diamond formation, which we'll talk about in the regular season. I'm hoping that maybe there's some improvements made on that before the preseason ends. But, uninspired effort in all aspects by the Ottawa Senators tonight, other than fighting. And of course, the Sens are not exactly a tough team, so they lost the fights. Speaking of that, let's talk about it. So the Sens need a tough guy. I'll be quite honest with you. Zack McEwen, Hodgson, these guys, I commend them for getting into it and trying to stir it up. But they consistently lose. And I'm sorry, you want the guy that's going to start these fights, get something going for you, to win said fights. And that rarely happens for the Ottawa Senators. I think, let's say 100 fights, we'll probably win 5 of them. And all 5 will be because of Brady Tkachuk, who probably fought in 5 of 5 on the year. You know what I mean? We don't want Brady Tkachuk fighting the majority of the fights. So that's where McEwen and Hodgson and whatnot step in. But when they step in, they lose. We need a guy out there that can defend, like Carter Yakupchuk, for example, who, as I already said before in this video, was getting manhandled during one of those skirmishes. Our top prospect should not be easily getting manhandled and thrown around. The guy that's manhandling Carter Yakupchuk should be on the ice. I'm sorry to get so angry about this, but I'm being honest. You have to protect your top players and your top prospects. If Tkachuk was there, obviously he would have done something and won. But that's the problem. Tkachuk shouldn't be the one that has to do something like that, Now he's going to. He's Brady Tkachuk. He's a Tkachuk. Of course he will. But he shouldn't have to always be that guy. So we have a serious problem when it comes to toughness and having the ability to, manage the game, so to speak, yourselves, right? Like the Habs did it. They defended their guys. Say whatever you want about Xhekaj and Struble and whatnot. They were defending their teammates. And while I don't like how they did it, I can respect them for doing that. The Sens, they didn't really have any of that tonight, other than, again, the responses to Xhekaj and Struble and whatnot fighting. I will give kudos to Sebrango, who got into it late in the third. That was the Sens' lone win in terms of fights tonight. But again, overall, in terms of roster players for the Ottawa Senators or bubble players, Sebrango was the only one, I guess, that won a fight, but the rest really didn't do much. So again, we need a tough guy. There's no doubt about that. And not just a tough guy that can just take punches, like a punching bag. A guy that can win fights, pump up the crowd, and get that bench going. Frankly, right now, if your name's not Brady Tkachuk, we don't have that. I'm just going to be very, very blunt about it. Now, besides that, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, Hab fans watching this, thank you for watching. And Sens fans watching this, love you all. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you all very, very much for watching. I'll talk soon. Go Sens, go.